Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our admin. If you have any confession that you want to share with us, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us on our WhatsApp number. So the confession reads like this. Hello, how are you? My name is Temba, not his real name, and I am here to confess something that has haunted me every day since the day that it happened. I am hoping that by sharing this, I might find some relief or maybe a chance at forgiveness, though I know I probably do not even deserve it. What you're about to hear is dark and twisted, a reminder of how greed can destroy your very soul. So it all began in a small township just outside of Johannesburg. I grew up with two of my friends, whom I'll call Sipo and Mandla. We had known each other ever since we were still kids, always sharing dreams of escaping poverty. As we got older, those dreams became more desperate. Life in the township was tough, and we watched as others around us struggled and never getting ahead, always chasing the next paycheck. As for my mom, I had gotten an example at what poverty can do to you. After my father had passed away, they came these other men with his friends. They were the loan sharks, and they came and they collected my father's car because my father apparently was owing them a lot of money. He had taken out that loan from the loan sharks when he wanted to send my big sister to university. She went to university, she graduated, but she came back and she was just sitting in the township with no job. The only job offers that she could get was from the Makola shops, or she was getting them from these other clothing stores that were not paying her a lot. And I had heard that there were others that used to go to Mozambique. So we kept on talking about going to Mozambique, but we were not so sure of leaving our own country so that we can go deep into Mozambique, where we can meet the most powerful sangomas from that country and get involved in these dark rituals so that we can also have money. And I had heard that there were other South Africans that would go to Mozambique and come back always wealthy, and I was really scared because I used to hear that once you do these Ukuthwala rituals, it meant that anything can happen to you. Your hands will be stained with blood. And when I would hear about those stories, at first I was like, it can never be me because I never take anything so seriously. But one night, Mandla suggested that we consider it. He was not just talking, he had already made contact with someone who could lead us to the rituals. I remember that night very well. We were sitting just having some fun, smoking our cigarettes, drinking our alcohol. When Mandla laid out the plan, he told us that he had found a man whom he kept on calling Ubaba, who was known for his black magic. Mandla said that he could arrange everything. We asked him where he had met with this man. He said that on Facebook, but it was going to cost us money. We needed to travel there. So we said how much. The money that was needed, it was quite a lot. I then accepted this other job offer from the place where my sister used to work at these other Makola shops. I was not even getting paid a lot of money, but I hustled and I hustled until I had raised the money, and then we went there. So when they were speaking, the conversation that he had showed us, it was saying that the ritual required a human head, not just a human head, but it was going to require the head of your relative, at least someone that you loved. But he said that there is always a negotiation. Each and every contract can be negotiated. So when we went there, at first we did not even believe that this was what we were doing, but we were so tired of being broke, struggling to get by. that desperation just clouded our judgment. And before I knew it, I was nodding along with others, and we agreed that we needed to go there. In the days that followed, we could not even sleep. We kept on thinking and thinking about the ways that we could go to Mozambique. So after we had gotten enough information on how Mozambicans illegally cross the border from their country into our country, we then got contact with one taxi driver who then took us to the border, and we crossed the border into Mozambique. I felt like I was crossing into another world. I was so scared for the first time, not being in my own country. No ID, no what. Everything was different, foreign, and it felt like we were leaving behind more than just our country. We then traveled to the place where we had been told that this was where the healer was going to be. It was unlike anyone that I had ever seen. When I looked at him, the man was quite old, barely even unable to finish a sentence, but when he would speak with you, he had so much power and confidence. He kept on looking at us, and he was looking through us. He led us into the bushes. This was the second night. For the first night, he said that we needed to rest since we had been on the bus for a very long time. The following night, that was when we were taken into the bushes. We sat around a fire. He explained that this was what we had to do, and he told us that for the ritual to work, what was needed was that we needed to sacrifice. And we spoke and we spoke. The man then said that he was going to try to speak with his ancestors to hear from them if it was going to be possible for the ancestors to allow him to change the terms and the conditions of the contract. Since 3 human heads were needed, we sat and we waited for the ancestors to speak. The ancestors were not talking. Then there was brought this other young boy. Maybe he was somewhere around 7 years. When this young boy was brought before us, then he was possessed, I don't know, by the ancestors or a demon. Then the young boy started to speak, and then the boy said that it was not allowed for the terms and the conditions to be changed, for we were not special and we needed to return back to our country. The little boy then pointed at that Sangoma and he said, you need to give them money. For these ones, they do not have the money. Give them money so that they can return back to their country, and they need to use that money. Each one of them, the money that you would have given them, they are supposed to take that money and they need to buy 3 dresses for their mothers, and I'll be able to kill their mothers for them. For these ones, I can see that they won't be able to physically kill their own mothers. The spirit went on and on, for the spirit wanted me in particular to tell my mom that she was supposed to accompany me to a nearby location, and when we were in the middle of nowhere, that was when I was supposed to stab my mom and take her head, but we were told that we were not brave enough to do that. We returned back to South Africa with the money that we had been given by the Sangoma, with the clear instructions that we were not supposed to use even a single rand from the amount that we had been given. The money that we were given each, it was 800 rand. All that we had to do was to use the money, and if there was change that was going to remain, you were not supposed to take that change. I went to this other shop, and when I went to that shop, I bought my mom a dress. Even when the shopkeeper wanted to give me my change, I said, today is your lucky day, keep the change. And I walked out of that shop. I met up with my friends and we returned back to the location. We all gifted our mothers with those new dresses. After our mothers had dressed up, that was when we waited again until we had found more money, and then we returned back to Mozambique. We stayed for a few days, and then we were told that we were going to be given 3 clay pots, and inside those clay pots, our mothers' heads, after they would have died, they were going to appear, and we had to feed the clay pot forever with blood. We returned back, and then we saw that indeed we were now making money out of nowhere. We just started our small businesses. As for me, I started a consultation business, and then I hired a few engineers, and now that is what I do. I run a consultation business, making my money. My mother passed away When my mother passed away, magically, I saw that in that clay pot, a head appeared. And the same thing that happened to me, that was the same thing that happened to my friends as well. So I moved out of the location before my mom had passed away, because no one was supposed to see the clay pot that I had brought with me from Mozambique. Me and my friends, we bought our houses in the same suburbs because no one is supposed to see us performing these rituals. Whenever a clay pot is dried up, let's say that maybe after 3 or 4 months, my clay pot is dried up, I then call upon my friend, and then they come and they help me, because each and every time to fill up the clay pot with chicken blood, it is quite a big task. It is a job for the whole day. What we do is that what we used to do, we used to buy 8 chickens, but we saw that when we would have bought the 8 or 10 chickens, the blood will quickly dry up. So now what we do is that we go out there, then we buy up to 30 or 35 chickens, then we have to slaughter them. Then after we would have slaughtered them, then we will see that we would have been able to fill up the clay pot with blood. And if my friend as well, if his clay pot is dried up, we also assist him. This is how we live our lives. Each and everyone has his own special room where we keep these clay pots. This is how I did my own Ukuthwala rituals with the help of my friends. Do I regret? Yes, I regret that my mother passed away. But when I look at the way that some people are suffering, those that I grew up with in the villages, I think that I made the correct decision for now. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our admins who helped us with this translation.